Thank you. So, any questions from anybody in the room, or did you guys just want to break it there? It's up to you guys. Yes, question in the back.
So what's going on is that our tax dollars are going into, for example, like the teachers union.
Yes.
The teachers union is got big money and they're just reinvesting it into the dean's
Mhm.
gain.
Correct.
And that's how they're retaining power, keeping people, awesome people like you, from ever gaining power.
Mhm.
So our tax dollars are actually working against us.
Correct.
And it's just, the NGOs, the teachers union, and it's just a revolving door system.
Mhm.
And like,
With no accountability.
well, it's the accountability, yes, but the thing is it's the tax dollars and seeing where this money's going, and we're never going to get anywhere until that gets changed.
Mhm.
And the accountability would be the prosecutions, because
That's right.
taking the money that's supposed to go to the education of the kids, and California is like next to dead last or whatever.
So, what was your question? That's my dad. That's my dad. My biggest hater on Facebook, my dad. I log in on Facebook and I'm scrolling through Facebook comments, and I would say every time I log into social media, there's somebody who's like, "You're an idiot, you're stupid, you're the worst." But I would say that my most critical comments are from my dad. but also a lot of my support. I love you, Dad. I'm just giving you a hard time. What's your question here, Dad?
It's probably more of a statement than anything, but
Yeah.
the thing is you're bringing the people together in
Correct.
collaboration or whatever. It's just the accountability would be the indictments
Yes.
and prosecutions to start before the election.
I'm going to add to your statement, and I agree. I think that it needs to happen before Election Day. That's one of the reasons why the vice president is now heading up a task force to expose fraud in California. That's one of the reasons why Attorney Bill Assaley is exposing fraud and homelessness in California. The prosecutions are en route. The prosecutions are happening. We're going to make this ground zero. I've been speaking with Steve about the Cali fraud, exposing through whistleblowing the massive amounts of fraud that's happening within the state, within the unions, within these systems that have been audited. And in fact, the California State Auditor released a 92-page report exposing the top 8 agencies that are the most rampant with fraud, with waste, and with abuse. This is a neutral office. It's not a Republican office, it's not a Democrat office. But what I have found is that most people are fiscally conservative.
Right.
Some people will describe themselves as socially liberal or whatnot. They'll say, I'm fiscally conservative. And what's really interesting about all this is we're actually seeing it come to play. We're seeing a lot of state controller audits. We're seeing a lot of county controller audits, county treasurer audits, where the money is being shown to be missing. We're seeing the beginning of prosecutions. We saw a man be arrested in LA for spending millions of dollars on a home and luxury vehicles. So the thing is let's take all of that. Let's have these prosecutions. But then, if you find a bunch of bodies in a river, you go in the river and you start seeing who you can save, right? You take those bodies, and that's the controller's job. These are already bodies in the river. That's our money, right? You take the bodies to the prosecutor, the attorney general. You say, why are there so many bodies in the river? Let's hold somebody accountable. But then the treasurer's job is to go upstream of the river, upstream of that bridge, and make sure that they're never falling in to begin with. And so that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we're not funding NGOs, we're not funding unions, we're not funding waste, fraud, and abuse and projects without having a mitochondrion of accountability. Something as simple as if your kid asks to go to the movies and they ask for $20, you give them $20 and they come back 15 minutes later and ask you for an additional $20. You say, well, did you go to the movies? What happened to the $20 I already gave you? And so by taking the budgets and chopping them up quarterly instead of annually, we can hold these systems to task before we continue writing these checks with quarterly audits. And if they can't pass a quarterly audit, their rating system goes down, and then we stop giving them as much money. It's not about how much money you spend, it's about the results. And then finally, It's a reciprocal door. We fund NGOs, we fund unions. They turn around and they fund candidates. Those candidates become electeds. Those electeds give money back to the entities that they're supposed to be policing and holding accountable. So that's not the way that government's supposed to work. Yes, Kirk.
I'm concerned about nepotism here.
Yep.
I see how long he got. Just talk. So I only want 1 minute.
I'll give you 1 minute.
David's one of the few guys that actually find the time to sit and listen to me talk about what I do. There are people in this room that don't have time to listen. I believe that if you take one of these guys down, then he can tell me who they are. There's dozens of culprits out there. I say we use the affidavit process. We go after one of them and take them down. We use the power of paper and we go after them because they're all violating their oath.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do government officials ever get called out for violating their oath? Never. There is no government agency that can police another government agency as well as we can police one man or one woman who is violating her oath. We take her down by simply filling the courtroom full of papers saying she's violated her oath, she's violated her oath, she's violated her oath. Now, Judge, you got a problem because you're not judicially fit if you don't certify what she's done against the people. And only the people can take these people down. We can elect good men or women for office, but the bottom line is, what are we the people going to do? Because a lot of us just want to wash our hands and say, I voted for the man, he won, or he voted for the lady and she lost. We'd like to go back to being busy again. That's the biggest 4-letter word that I have to deal with. It's not all those bad words, it's that word busy. I'm just too busy. Was John Adams too busy? He left his family for months because he wanted to save the country. That's what he's willing to do. And I'm asking you, give me 45 minutes someday on a Zoom call to just understand what I'm doing. I've taken Best Buy to court. I've taken Cervantes down. And I stopped Cervantes from passing bad legislation by simply calling her out. They need to hear you're violating your oath.
Thank you, Kirk. Well said. Kirk and I have met and we've talked about the power of paper. And what we really need to do is we need to hold elected officials accountable in the courts. And the most important branch of government is that fourth branch of government, which is we, the people. Now, I've had a lot of people call me and ask me to run for lieutenant governor with them, secretary of state, all these different things. But when I talk to them, I tell them, hey, listen, I'm not really willing to run with any group of people unless we're running prosecutions, unless we're going to start holding people accountable in the court system. And so one of the ways that we can do that is through the people, the affidavit system. Kirk will be happy to educate you more about that. But that's what we do. I mean, look at what Nick Shirley, a 23-year-old, was able to do with a cell phone and a camera. I mean, we can get involved. We can hold them accountable. We don't have to wait for anyone's permission to do it. California's ground zero on corruption. It's the front in this fight that we're fighting. And so we need more warriors to lock faith. I'm going to go to Yvonne and then to you, Jane. Yes, Yvonne.
David, I'm concerned. I love that you're running. I'm the secretary of the Lincoln Club, and I supported in his first run, a big patriot, held a lot of events. I worked on Larry Elder's campaign.
Oh, nice.
2 weeks before the election, we're told 23 counties have the Dominion machine,
Mm-hmm.
and that 4.9 million ballots were to vote no on the recall.
Mm-hmm.
I myself in Riverside County contested 7,000 ballots that were out of state.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? Because we're all here and we want to fight to get you to win,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we get rid of the fraud?
In the elections.
To win.
Okay, 3 things. Good question. First is pressure your congressman or senator to pass the SAVE Act. Pressure them. Look, Scott Pressler is pushing the SAVE Act. This is going to bring transparency back to elections. ID, only mail-in ballots for people that require them because of health or military service. The SAVE Act is brass tacks. If we can't get that done in a Republican Senate and a Republican Congress, then it's time for primaries. And nobody likes to talk about primaries, but it might be time for primaries. When you've got a bunch of Republican congressmen in the state of California voting for the kill switch in the vehicles, voting for abortion funding, voting for DEI programs, voting against us trying to do away with these sanctuary city policies, these sanctuary state policies. I'm telling you, at what point do we start looking at these Republicans and saying these aren't Republicans? They've been in there for 10, 20, 30 years. You can't drain half a swamp. And yet when it comes time to get rid of the perverts and pedophiles and corrupt people, everyone says, well, that's my pervert, that's my pedophile, that's my corrupt politician. And it's like, well, hold up. When people comment on my stuff and they say the GOP is the party of guarding old pedophiles, it's like, what do I say to them when all of my Republican congressmen in the state of California were blocking to release the Epstein files? So the thing is whether we're bringing transparency to election, whether we're protecting life, whether we're talking about, going after these sanctuary state, sanctuary city policies, whether we're talking about being strict on immigration, we are abandoned in our hour of need time and time again by our elected officials. And so there are three things that you could do. The first one, hold your elected official accountable, call them now, tell them to pass the SAVE Act. The second one is, Carl DeMaio is working to get voter ID on the ballot here in California. Back up Carl and his efforts. I certainly can recognize a good thing where I see it, and that's a good thing. And then the third thing is we need a great Secretary of State. You cannot get control of your elections if you don't get a Secretary of State into the Secretary of State's office that cares about getting control of your elections. Now, that's not the treasurer's job. The job is the Secretary of State. The person that's running for Secretary of State is out of Orange County, Don Wagner. Does everybody know who Don is? You just went to his event. So he's launched for Secretary of State, and that's sort of his platform. And in fact, I'll give you a bonus one. I'll give you one last thing to do. So SAVE Act, Carl DeMaio's thing, get a great Secretary of State. The last thing is Kim Yater is pushing this thing through her Take Your Power Back, Take California Back platform, where she's going on a multi-city tour to talk about election integrity. And so they're going to be, I've got dates, it's on my phone somewhere, but the next one I believe is on the 16th outside of Stockton.
Yeah. And the Lincoln Club is also doing a Carl DeMaio event on May 9th.
Okay, cool. Jane, and then to the back, did you have one?
Just a point.
Okay, Jane first, go ahead, Jane.
Just real quick, now that we're moving on out and getting into our lane, David's lane, are we stepping in with Steve Hilton?
So great question. Great question. Probably a million times that I've gotten this question in the last 3 weeks. So I appreciate you asking me it so that I could address this in front of everybody. I'm telling you that when I stepped out of the governor's race, when I stepped out of the governor's race, everyone called me, everyone commented, are you throwing your support behind Bianco or Hilton? Yes. That's the simple answer. Not everybody's going to like that answer, but I'm going to tell you why the answer is yes, I'm supporting both Bianco and Hilton. Is because we should control the top two in the jungle primary. I know that DeMaio is saying that it's impossible, but I'm looking at a very fractured Democratic Party that's looking at Swalwell, that's looking at Yee, that's looking at Porter, that's looking at Mahan. They're all over the place. And they should be eating each other alive because they're a party of failures throughout the state of California. We should hold them accountable. In every city, in every congressional district, in every Senate district, we should be holding them accountable. I don't like the look of Hilton going after Bianco. I don't. And I know that there's some people in this room that don't really like Bianco. Let's take that energy and let's throw it into the Democratic Party. right? Let's take that energy and let's throw it into the group of people that are actually destroying this state all over this state with their destructive democratic policies. And if we don't lock shields in this election cycle, if we do not face front, then we're going to deserve everything that we get. And in my opinion, if Bianco and Hilton both get in through the jungle primary, we lock out the Democrats. Democratic voters stay home because they don't want to vote down ballot when they don't have a horse in the race. And then we could win the executive. We could pick up seats in the Senate, protect the House majority in the Congress. This is the kind of 4D chess that everybody claims that they're playing, but they're not really playing. We should absolutely choke the Democrats out. But what Hilton and Bianco need to do, and quite honestly, I hear this already from Bianco. I've been to Hilton events. I've been to Bianco events. I've spent time with both of these gentlemen and everyone else running against them alone, in public, on a debate stage. And one of the best things that is coming out of anyone's mouth is what Bianco says. Democrats are great at attacking Republicans. Republicans are also great at attacking Republicans. There's not a lot of Republicans that have any power, which is why our party doesn't have a bench, which is why we don't have a bench to pull from or players in the game to pull from for these state offices, because we don't have anybody. So the best thing that we could do is attack the Democrats. Go into Los Angeles, go into the Bay Area, go into Sacramento, expose them for the destructive policy, expose them through audits, expose them through the waste, fraud, and abuse, Cali-fraud, Cali-doge. I'll work with anyone who wants to work. I'm not going to work with anyone who wants to be destructive and tear other Republicans down until it comes time. And I'm not going to take that off the table. I have been in this game for too long with the CAGOP, with the GOP, with our local Republican parties throughout the state of California to not say that if corruption rears its ugly head, that I'm not going to call it out. That's one of the reasons why I'm in this race. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people are excited that I'm back in the race, because there's no one that's going to hold these clowns accountable for the circus that they've been leading. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So are you gonna do this from here so we can do the work that you're talking about?
Volunteers. Thank you. So Vinny, Chris, Chip, these are my three main people that have been helping me build this campaign. But in the last campaign, I told you I wasn't going to ask for your time or your money, because I entered the governor's race to be a bully. I entered the governor's race to be a bully. And a lot of people look at me and they say, well, why did you enter the governor's race? Because they weren't talking about policy, because they weren't delivering a plan, because they weren't putting California first, and because they weren't interlocking shields to build a team that we needed to build. And so the volunteers, yes, it's time to work. Yes, it's time to donate. You know, we want to control the people's money. We're going to need a little bit of the people's money as an investment. And if you put a little bit of an investment, I guarantee you I'm going to give you an ROI for that squeeze. Do you get what I'm saying? We're going to get in there and we're going to make lives better for you. We're going to make lives better for your children and for your grandchildren for a long time to come. Yes, sir.
You promised someone back there a question first. I don't want to jump the line.
Oh, did I?
No, it was a statement I had on something else.
Okay, I'll come to you next then. Sorry, Eric. Go for it.
Okay, your initial thrust was for the governor's race,
That's correct.
and you are now running for treasurer.
Mhm.
Your superpower is your omniscience. I mean, you have this broad range knowledge, you have this plan, you have this comprehensive view of all of it
Mhm.
that the state can use.
Mhm.
As treasurer, how much will you be able to still assert yourself in being involved in those other areas that aren't the treasurer's purview, giving you the opportunity? Because I listen to the other fellows on the dais and in the debates and that sort of thing,
Mhm.
and I told you this before, the way that you came across, you know, just was more impressive than the other fellows.
Thank
Your
you.
comprehensive knowledge, I would hate to see any of that muted or tampered down
Mhm.
because of your limitations in the treasurer's office.
Thank you.
I know you're going to do an excellent job there, but will you still be able to have influence in all of those other areas that are interests of yours? And you've mentioned several of them so far just this morning.
No, thank you for asking that question. So a big part of this was I had two giant presentations that I had been giving to everybody. My plan for how to deliver the state of California was about 120 pages. My business plan for, how to put things to work for the state of California was twice as long as that. That was 240 pages, but that's made its way into Hilton's hands. It's in Bianco's hands. It's in Corinne's hands. So the thing is the policy has always been what's important to me. How we can implement that has always been important to me. So what we need to do is we need to elect an entire executive branch. We need to get the Senate. We need to get the Assembly and all of these different things. But I could tell you that the most important position in this entire race is the treasurer seat, because it's all about the money. And when I had this debate, when I was up there with Bianco and with Hilton, they asked everybody, what's the most important thing to all of you in your race? And it was sort of in that moment that I was like, this is what needs to happen, because they said, it's the corruption or it's the bureaucracy. And I said, it's the money. It's the money. The root of all of our problems in the state of California can be traced back to the mismanagement. And not only the mismanagement, the deliberate corruption and use of our money for things that it shouldn't be used for. So the treasurer is involved in everything, because the money is coming through the treasurer's office, which gives us the ability to figure out who we want to fund, how much of it we want to fund them, and then and establish parameters for holding them accountable as the money is spent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Stalter.
I was actually going to comment on something you said earlier. The
Comments are welcome.
The election integrity thing, they are going to be in Riverside County today at the Board of Supervisors, 1:30, Shasta County Supervisors. We're going to do a presentation there. And to your point, sir, having a man like Serpa in a more obscure position is going to shock the state of California, because they've never heard from a treasurer before. So I would argue, to your point, I see what you're saying, but to have a man like Serpa in there where there's going to be talking going on and the people hearing it is a plus for all of us. It won't be lost, is what I'm saying.
Thank you. Yeah, so I appreciate that. And in fact, one of the best things, I'm so lucky. I've got a PhD on my team in organizational leadership. I've got a business tech startup expert, and I've got a college professor, a historian. And so, Roma was telling me, he said, we've only actually elected 3 California state treasurers since 1959. There's not a single person that served as California state treasurer who's still alive. And we haven't elected a Republican California state treasurer since 1999. As I like to say to my kids, back in the 1900s. So we have not elected a California state treasurer since the 1900s. So it's time, 27 years later, that we go ahead and we turn things around. People describe themselves as fiscally conservative. So let's give them a chance to put their money where their mouth is, or their vote where their mouth is. Yes, Kathy.
Just a comment or question about the integrity, voter integrity, and we want the 2 Republicans to be the top 2. But if we don't get the integrity thing done, how are we going to do that? Because they're going to cheat.
So again, kind of going back to, the Riverside County Registrar of Voters Office, 1:30, if you want to act locally. Kim Yater's thing, if you want to get involved throughout the state of California, and I can connect you with Kim. Carl DeMaio and his voter ID, the SAVE Act, calling them, and then the 5th thing, the Secretary of State's office. So I hear you. We've got to get control of our elections, but for me, it's about the money. Let's get behind Don Wagner and get control of our elections. And before we even get in there, let's get behind DeMaio and his Voter ID Act. Let's get behind the SAVE Act, and let's call our senators and our congressmen to force them to support this legislation. And if they don't, it might be primary time. Yes, ma'am.
Just to comment on what you're talking about, how to address this. If I've worked in the California State Assembly, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. If you call about the SAVE Act or this type of issue, make sure it's a phone call, not a fax or an email, and make sure that you list the bill, either the SAVE Act or the actual number of it, because that is what actually gets logged in the person on the phone taking the call, and they do not log faxes, I know for a fact. So yeah.
That's great information. So they don't log faxes, don't email them, pick up the phone, call your congressman, call your senator, Thune needs to pass this. He needs to bring it to the floor to get it to a vote. Any other questions, comments from anybody else? Yes, Kathy.
I think money is something that we all need to help you with,
Thank you.
and I think it might be nice if all of us think in our minds, okay, I'm gonna call 20 of my friends, or I'm gonna call more than that, or I'm gonna call less, but you know who has money. And you could
That's right.
tell him to listen to him, or look at him on Facebook. He sold me the first hour I heard him speaking. So, I mean, I've been on his campaign since then.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
please, all of you, commit in your minds, get one of these pieces of paper
Thank you.
and donate.
And Chris is rapidly shaking her head up and down because Chris, if you guys don't fund it, it just ends up being Chris. So hey, really quick, please make donations, guys. In all seriousness, the website's davidserpaforca.com. Serpa, thank you, serpaforca.com. Good thing I got a team. So serpaforca.com. Please make a donation. The max donation is $9,800. And what we've seen a lot, but everything helps. Anything helps because money will go a long way in this race. I'm up against the silver spooner in this race. I'm up against an 8-year lieutenant governor of the state of California. She's endorsed by Hillary Clinton. She's endorsed by Adam Schiff. She's endorsed by all of the people that you don't like, and that's Alani Kounalakis. And with what she's done to California for the last 8 years, the last thing that she should be doing is thinking about running for another public office. Yes, Yvonne.
Can you get a letter to us that we can forward to people that we want to donate to?
Absolutely.
And then will you also have your calendar of your upcoming events like
Yes.
you did before when you ran?
Yes, the great. Hey, listen, great suggestions, you guys. Because in this last campaign, I didn't ask for money because I didn't want you guys throwing your money away. But freedom of speech does not equate to freedom of reach, right? We have to spend money in order to reach people. Every single one of you guys, I knew in the first 30 seconds when David opened up his mouth that we needed to get him elected. But we need to make sure that we get out to more people. So thank you. We will draft the letter. We'll get it out to everyone. I'm happy to meet with donors. I'm happy to talk with anybody that you want to introduce me to. I didn't spend money or time on the phones last time. This time I'm going to be spending time on the phones because we need money in order to win. It's right up there with oxygen. Yes.
One last thing. Everyone in here, I'm telling you, I've been doing this every month now. I go and talk to 10 people. I don't care that they're Democrats, most of them are, and I bring my iPad and I'm converting them to vote Republican. We all need to do that. In our conscious mind, grab your phone, go to that website. I've been doing it. I'm on record. I have 18 so far. And what's the date today? The 10th.
You're amazing. You're amazing, Yvonne. I'm so grateful for you. The events that you threw me in the congressional race. But not only that, even though you didn't agree with me running for governor, you never said anything bad about me. And that's kind of the point. Because I see the comments. And I've got one person in this room that wears brass knuckles in the comment section, Jackie back there. She goes and she bloodies faces for me on Facebook. But look, honestly, I understand that not everybody agreed with the approach, but the fact that you never said anything negative about me, that you kept saying good things, that you wanted what's best for me because you know that I want what's best for California, it meant a lot for me. So thank you, Yvonne. Anything else from anyone else?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay, Nick.
So the largest boondoggle in California has been the high-speed rail.
Oh, yeah.
We've spent $158 billion of all of your money on that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an issue I think you could take and run with. There's already public support behind it, and if you go out there, you make that your issue, because they talk about AM radio, on all the talking heads on the news talk about it. You can make it your issue, and if you promise clawbacks, prosecution, things like that, people will get behind that. So it's just something to think about.
No, I agree with you 100%. The difficult thing is, and the reason why I didn't want to run for this office without having a great AG candidate is because we need prosecutions.
Right.
You know, you can't have $118 billion in high-speed rail money missing. You can't have $24 billion missing from homelessness funds.
Right.
You can't have lottery money that was supposed to save our schools not going into our schools and still having asbestos on ceilings. It's ridiculous what's happened through the financial fraud in the California state system. And what needs to happen is that we need to prosecute people. The controller has been leading the way with that. the attorney general needs to actually pull the, and actually do those prosecutions. But what's great is that the federal government is now getting involved, because we have to establish trust through people. And I think that we build faith by exposing fraud. Yes. And then let's make this the last one. And then we'll eat donuts. We'll hang out. We'll drink coffee. I'll have some sidebar conversations with our podcasters. And we'll get a big picture from everybody right after this. Yes.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I have this. She has a beautiful pin that looks like and we have the Serpa tea pins. Talk to people. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to in the grocery line or in the produce department,
And I know because they call me.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Kathy in the produce section.
So you want us to give your mobile number out?
Yeah, well, that's why it's listed.
I know everybody's busy, and that's what he said. But we're busy doing things, but we can also side trail a little bit. So please, just remember David would be the best treasurer ever.
I appreciate you, Kathy. All right. If you're willing to get in the picture with me, if you're willing to put your face out there, feel free to grab a Serpa sign and join me over here.